Hey guys, this is Klazart bringing another audio commentary alongside Cholera and Rise. We are continuing our coverage of the E-Star Seoul StarCraft Heritage League Finals. We've just seen a massive matchup on Python. We've seen both players being aggressive, Savior and Nada. We've seen some classic StarCraft, and we've seen Nada come out on top, taking the first game. And now we are in Game 2, a must-win matchup for Savior on Destination. And I'm hugely excited about this. I've got to say, even though I'm a Savior fan, I really enjoyed that last game of StarCraft.
Well, I'd just like to point out, I didn't really give much of a synopsis of the last game, of course, but really, to sum things up, I kind of think that Savior had very bad game sense. And I know that he could have done this, he could have done that in the end. I really feel that it was just what I would call a lack of game sense. And it's very surprising, especially at that level. He knew what was exactly outside of his base at that time. He had Overlords in the area. He saw the massive amount of Marines and 3 tanks, if not 2 of them at the very least. And certainly he should have gone for a pincer attack, as we all know. But in the end, he didn't. And so I really wonder how that's going to translate in this game. Now, this is on Destination, which is once again a Terran-favored map. Python was 60% win rate for Terran, and now Destination, another 60% win rate for Terran. But Nada is a bit of an old-school player, as we all know. Will he go for the traditional mech build? I guess it's kind of funny saying it traditional, but really I'm wondering if he's going to do that, or if he's going to go for a medic marine build. I can only imagine that he is going to go mech, because that's just the way everyone seems to go on this map. And if that's the case, I think that Savior should be, able to handle it. But if he has bad game sense, once again, I worry for him, and I don't know if we'll see a Game 3 after this.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he kind of pulled a Quan Ro, by no means to insult Quan Ro, or like an Iris last game, where he was just over-aggressive at the wrong moment. And you're right, I think possibly he could have been able to stall the push. Certainly wouldn't be able to stall the push or attack it directly, and obviously
that is Grubby, by the way, for
though.
anyone wondering, and his girlfriend.
Grubby? Who's Grubby?
He's the world's #1 Warcraft 2 player. We're going to be seeing him. We're going to be seeing him in StarCraft 2, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, anyway, looks like Savior's going to send out that traditional, very early drone scout on Destination. He wants to know what's going on here. He's going to see the Panda, and he is, he's going to expect a mech build. I think Nada has to go for a mech build on this map. It's just suboptimal not to. The mech build just works so much better. And the question is what kind it is he's going for. Last game he worked very well with that. Well, actually, I mean, you know what? I take it back. I wouldn't say that he did that great with a fast expand build, because I felt like his early attack, man, that was just so close, and yet it didn't work out. And later on, his push was actually a little bit slow. But we'll see if he goes for 1 base or 2 base, I guess. If he starts off with a relatively early command center or not, or if he goes for some kind of vulture push. Certainly a possibility of vulture rush. Certainly a possibility to go some kind of wraith build. Looks like Savior doing a good job here with his harassment of SCV. He might get one. He just might get one. That one needs to run to the gas or something. Savior, though, looks like Nada is much better at microing his SCVs than Toss Girl is. I'll just point that out. Savior is going to know it's a mech build, of course, because there is gas. And let's see if he manages to live long enough to find out what kind it is. I don't think he will, though, with Marines around. Savior probably has to get, well, he has a lot of choices. He can go 2 hatcheries without Hydralisks, or he can go 2 or 3 hatcheries with Hydralisks. But he's going to need a Sunken Colony. He's going to need some defense against Vultures. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, Toss Girl's SCVs were good enough to beat Reach, so that's all I'm going to say on that subject. But Factory going down now for Nada. Savior still managed to keep that drone alive despite sustained pressure from that Marine for a significant amount of time, and that's pretty decent micro by the Maestro. He's keeping that drone dancing amongst those Marines. He's now put that 3rd hatchery down, so he's going for a 3 hatchery build, now starting up his gas in his main. So it'll be interesting to see if we see Savior get that Spire down and get some Mutalisk out, get some 3-hatch Muta going, and see how Nada deals with that and how Nada copes with that. Nada, I don't think I see an SCV out for Nada right now scouting Savior. I don't think Nada has been able to scout, because Savior has done such a good job of keeping Nada busy with that drone in his base that Nada actually hasn't sent a scout out at all. And it looks like Savior is now sending another drone out southwards to again to try and harass a little bit. Nada now sending a Marine out, it looks like, to perhaps try and get a scout off. And meanwhile, Nada's looking to get his expansion down. He's taken that first factory, and he's lifted his racks. But it looks like he's now putting his command center down, getting ready to take his natural expo. But yeah, you know, the whole SC2 question was raised for me there for a second ago, just looking at the Warcraft 3 players. It's interesting how StarCraft is completely Korean dominated, but Warcraft is much more even, with arguably the world's best Warcraft 3 player being Grubby. There's of course Spirit Moon as well, who's the Korean player who's always been Grubby's rival, but I feel that Grubby's had a little bit of a one-up on him in recent times, although I haven't really been keeping up that well with the Warcraft 3 pro scene. But it'll be interesting to see. I would love to see the Warcraft 3 top pros translate into StarCraft 2 and see which of the two sets of players' skills translate better. Savior just bringing that Zergling around the back, trying to get a little bit of take that Marine down. He does manage to kill that Marine before the Zergling goes down, and it looks like he's putting a fourth hatchery down at his natural expo. I don't think I see a Spire yet for Savior, so we might be seeing him go maybe even straight to 5-hatch Hydras here. Oh, that's a Hydralisk den, sorry.
Not to talk about StarCraft 2 too much during this match, but my guess is that StarCraft 1 skills will translate better with the real-time feel that you get from StarCraft versus Warcraft 3, which to me always felt a little bit more clunky and less very fast. I don't know. It's still micro-oriented, of course, but I don't know. We'll see what happens when the game actually comes out. Anyway, Nada finally sending out his first Vulture to do some harassment over there, but Savior actually getting a Sunken this time, which I think is definitely a good idea. One thing I do like that Savior's been doing so far in this match is he's been putting the pressure on Nada, whether it be his drone or a single Ling or whatever it is. He's actually making Nada really think, and I'd say that one of Nada's weaknesses is if he's got the pressure on him, he doesn't do quite a good job reacting to it as he does putting it on. And he's researching drop, as we look at his first-person view, but it looks like he's not going to actually be able to do that for a while. For now, he's going to have to deal with the 3 Vultures that are sitting at his front door, and Nada not going to be able to do too much with that front door, with the good block that's going on over there. So Savior going to be able to hold that off for now, and Nada going to have to wait until he gets his next level of tech. He got an armory up at this point, so he'll probably be going for upgrades, and we'll have to see if he decides to go for Goliaths or tanks or what actually comes out of this mech build, as it can vary a little. As we see some Goliaths pumping out at this point, and he's building what looks to be an academy there, so he can start seeing what the hell's going on in Savior's base, because I think he's still, even though he saw the Hydras, I don't know if he's probably still playing a bit in the dark there, wondering if mutas are going to be showing up shortly or not. But the Hydras are pushing in, and he's going to have to defend from that. We got some Goliaths out on the field, but they're not enough to deal with all those Hydras, and now Savior really putting the pressure on at this point. 1 bunker down. Nada probably going to be able to save this just from that 1 bunker, but definitely a lot of pressure being put on. If Savior can get a run-by going on with those Hydras, he might be in a good position, and it looks like Nada's trying to go for a run-by of his own, but he's going to get caught by the Hydras coming out of the ramp. So Savior actually in a very strong position here, and Nada, again, I feel like the pressure being put on him is just making him play an off game, and that is not going to do, that's not going to be very well as we continue to go further and further in this match, because Savior is the one playing the game, and Nada is playing Savior's game. He's not playing his own game here, which is certainly going to hurt him as we continue to develop in the match.
Yeah, I think Nada probably should have gone for mines instead of Vulture speed, given how well constructed Savior's front door was. I think that was a mistake to go for Vulture speed, because obviously you get that in order to try to run by, but taking a look at that natural, there's no way he was going to do it. Savior might not actually go for drop. I was a little bit excited there, seeing Savior's really fast clicking. I thought that was drop somehow being researched, but it was actually just Overlord speed, as you can see, and that's very useful, of course, in a mech build, or versus a mech build, so you can defuse mines without having them kill 4 Hydras each or something. Looks like Savior is going to just move right into this natural expansion. Nada does not have tanks, of course, and you really don't want mass Goliaths against mass Hydralisks. If those are the only 2 units involved, Hydras are more cost effective. Savior has a Spire down also, which we'll see probably some Mutalisks coming out with very soon. There they are, and this is a big problem for Nada. Nada lost a lot of resources in going for those Vultures with speed, and those didn't accomplish anything. So now he doesn't have a lot of Goliaths. He's forced to put up turrets, of course, as you can see, and the thing is, Savior has a large Hydra force also, so when he pushes when he forces Goliaths to go back in the base to defend, Savior could possibly break that natural expansion, and that would be disastrous for Nada, of course.
Yeah, Savior's going to be able to put a good amount of pressure on Nada pretty soon. And Nada, I think he's putting up turrets, but he isn't really going crazy with those turrets. He's just putting them up kind of almost as a precautionary measure. I don't think he's really seen, and that's what I was going to say. I don't think he'd had the turrets up in time. He's only got the one turret up, and Savior's just able to, and those Goliaths are going to be quite slow coming back into Nada's base because they have to come through that narrow choke, and they're going to have to march one at a time on the ground. Meanwhile, Savior has forced all of Nada's SCVs off his mineral lines. He's killed a couple of turrets as well. One turret that was building, I think he's forced Nada to cancel at least 2 turrets. So he's doing a good job of harassing Nada and doing some damage, but Nada managed to save the front, and Savior did try to do exactly what you predicted, draw the Goliaths away and then push in with the Hydralisk, but unfortunately for him, Nada did a good job of defending. He put those spider mines down, but what Savior has done is he's effectively blocked Nada into his base, and now he's got that third expansion up and running at that 10 o'clock position. Meanwhile, Nada just getting up behind Savior's main only with the Savior's Natural Expo with a couple of vultures, but Savior neutralizing that comfortably with Hydralisk and that speed upgrade Overlords, which are doing a great job of countering those vultures. Now Savior continuing to harass with the Mutalisk, coming around for another pass at Nada's Natural Expo, and again Nada with those Goliaths, which are not very maneuverable, is taking damage to his SCVs. I think this harassment isn't going to last very long, however, because Nada's just got to place a couple of Goliaths in both places. But Nada, you're right, Nada is playing a very reactionary game. You want to play a proactive game in StarCraft. You want to play to your plans. If you're constantly reacting to your opponent's plans, then you're not really doing what you want to be doing, and you're not really taking the game in the direction that you want to take. And as long as Savior can keep Nada dancing to his tune, he's going to be content. And he's continuing to come in despite taking fire from those Goliaths. He's doing a lot of damage. I think Savior's killed at least 10 SCVs now, and that's not where Nada wants to be. In contrast, Nada has done virtually no harassment to Savior's economy or base.
Yeah, with the exception of a couple of vultures attacking some drones in the back line of the natural expansion of Savior, Nada really hasn't done any damage to him. And really, as Cholera was saying before, he's just not had a lot of money. His economy's been hurting a lot. Nada's economy's been hurting a lot. And while with having to build turrets, with having to build Goliaths, which are not doing a very good job right now against those mutas, you know, he's definitely taking a lot more damage than he wants to be to his economy. And now even this, you know, Savior was completely ready for it, and he's able to take out all 4 of these vultures, or 3 vultures, with just that one grouping of muta, and there's nothing Nada is able to do about it. Right now he's just completely being outplayed. So Savior really showing that he can stand up to Nada, and really he's doing a very good job of it, as he is definitely directing the flow of this game towards his favor. And now it looks like Savior's getting ready to give him a finishing blow here. I mean, Nada continuing to try to harass with a vulture or 2 here and there, getting 2, 3, 4 drones maybe, but it's not going to be enough. And now we're seeing Savior go right into the main base, although he's got Hydras there too. He's probably just going to go in the front door. There he goes right now, focusing on the tanks with the Mutalisk. He's got to watch out for all of the spider mines going off, but he's got an Overlord there now too. He's got to take out that bunker as well. Goliath's going down. Hydra's doing a lot of damage. Bunker goes down. All we got left is some Goliaths getting stuck on the ramp, and this is very bad for Nada. Nada's not going to be able to handle this for much longer if Savior continues to pump units and send them down. He may survive this small skirmish here, but he has taken heavy losses, and Savior, I definitely feel, is coming out on top at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Nada's army is so difficult to replace. The Terran army is so costly, and also just, you know, has to be pumped out individually. And Savior is in a commanding position with 3 bases, and certainly has taken out most of Nada's forces. So I am expecting a Savior victory. Just going back to it, that early decision to go for speed instead of mines, I think, was the critical point in this match. Because had he had mines, he would have been able to neutralize the Hydras. He would have been able to do the classic Terran thing, which is put mines right in front of the Zerg's base. And until Savior got his Overlord speed, his Hydralisks would just be useless. And even with speed, usually the Terrans plant mines so sparsely everywhere in weird positions that certainly Savior would have lost a number of Hydras just advancing across the map. And Nada would have been able to do much better overall without losing any SCVs, without well, he would have been able to produce a lot more Goliaths also. So it would have been a different game, but certainly Nada is not, you can't really fault him for going for speed. You know, sometimes it does work out where you can get a crazy run by with like 6 or 7 vultures and then end the game right there just by executing all the drones. But Savior's 3 hatch Hydralisks also, we got to credit that too. A very good anticipation for what Nada ended up doing, and those Hydras were definitely you know, very useful. level. It looks like Savior is once again just going to face off against a couple of Vultures, Nada continue to produce them. Really a desperation move at this point. I mean, he could just build more Goliaths, but that's only going to just delay the inevitable. So he is trying to just do something to get back into the game. He's going to get Irradiate, actually. He's going to have a Science Vessel. Usually that's pretty rare to see, but also the kind of, he thinks he's got to get something, some kind of big Irradiate, some kind of big attack off, or big harass off to try to even up the game, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think Savior probably deserves a little more credit as well, because he did, I mean, Nada did play quite predictably this game. He did pretty much what Savior expected him to, but Savior had excellent positioning of his base buildings, preventing Nada from trying to get those Vultures in there, and just with a single Sunken and a couple of Hydralisks, he was able to come to it. Now Savior coming in for another attack, taking out a couple of Siege Tanks straight away with those Mutalisks, and once those Siege Tanks are down, there's nothing to stop those Hydralisks streaming into that base, and really Nada, I think this time this might be the finishing maneuver here. At the very least, he's going to lose all of his SCVs at his natural expo. He's got some more Goliaths, he's got a couple of Siege Tanks on the ramp, and the Hydralisks are trying to close in within range of that. The Mutalisk coming in as well, trying to take the Siege Tanks out. The Mutalisk coming under fire from the Goliaths as well, but the Mutalisk, there's only a couple of Goliaths left. The Mutalisk are going to be able to take those Siege Tanks down. Savior's lost most of his Hydralisks, sorry, he's only, I was only looking at the ramp there. He's got most of his Hydralisks alive. He takes the natural expo, Nada GG's. Savior takes the victory. And I think Savior deserves a lot of credit for the way he engineered and orchestrated that victory. The Maestro did compose a beautiful symphony in that game.
Yeah, it was definitely clear that he definitely had control of that game the entire time, from the start to the finish, from the drone harassment where Nada was running around with his SCV trying to get away from that drone, trying not to lose it. I mean, I think from there on we just saw that Savior just seemed to be a step ahead the entire time. He controlled the game, he controlled the unit composition of Nada basically, and then he used that to his advantage, and that's how, like you said, orchestrated some beautiful attacks. Pretty much the entire game went in his favor at that point. So, Savior's favor. Does that make sense? So, I mean, really, that means that we're going on to a Game 3, which, I mean, I'm very excited about, because really, I think at this point, both players having won a match, who do you think has actually played better, though, of the two? I would actually argue that with the one exception of the poor game sense of Savior that lost him the game in the first game, I think that Savior's actually the better player right now in the series so far.
Yeah, I think so too. I think generally his control has been superior to Nada's. Nada seemed a little off. I mean, Nada, of course, historically has been famous for his micro, but I feel like his micro these two games wasn't fantastic at all, to say the least. I mean, just that dropship example, also the Vulture harassment, just not very good. He placed a ton of mines in his natural expansion, none elsewhere. Partially not, his fault because he was forced in, but still, I feel like Savior's played better. I think Savior, if he just, like you said, if he doesn't end up in game one, kind of throwing his game away by being too aggressive, I think he should be able to win this series. I mean, Savior historically, looking at the past few encounters against Nada, has been able to beat him, right? Not just from different things like WWI a few years ago. I remember he beat him. Just a number of things. Of course, the BlizzCon, was it BlizzCon this year where he said he will destroy everyone? Well, I guess it was in 2008, but when he said. Yeah, when he said he'll destroy everyone in 2009. I think that was coming off of the heels of a victory against Nada, right? I'm not sure if that was in the finals or not, but he did beat Nada, and then he announced the dubious claim, I guess, that he would destroy everyone in 2009. I don't know. Klaser, what do you think, being the biggest Savior fan out there? Do you think he's on his way to destroying everyone in 2009? Do you think he still can do it in the remaining 5 months?
Yeah, I really don't think the E-Stars tournament is any indication of that, unfortunately. But I am going to be a huge Savior fanboy here and say that I think Savior has definitely been playing much better than Nada. And, again, it's not surprising if you consider the fact that Savior actually made it to the round of 16 in the MSL this season, whereas Nada has only been performing occasionally in the Pro League, playing occasionally in the Pro League for his team, for We Made Fox, and even there he hasn't been winning consistently or been performing consistently. So I mean, if you look at the form and you look at the kind of level that each of these guys have been playing at pre-tournament, that's pretty much consistent with what we've seen so far throughout the Heritage League. And I think it's just down to, I mean, Savior definitely has the potential, but he's still not, in order for Savior to take another title, he's going to have to hope that Jaedong probably, and probably Effort as well, get taken out by someone else for a single series, and on top of that, he's going to have to play at his best. That's the only way Savior can win another title as far as I'm concerned in StarCraft 1. I think StarCraft 2 could be a whole different beast. I think Savior with the right kind of motivation could do really well in it, but that's still a little way away.
Well, if you consider the E-Stars StarCraft Heritage Tournament, you know, something that he could win and put to his name, I think he's got a really good chance because, as we know, Savior is super emo, and whether it's positive or negative, it affects his play greatly. And I think that right now he's super positive emo coming off that last win, and he was definitely very strong in the first game, again, with the exception of that one big mistake, game-losing mistake. So, really, I gotta say that I think that Savior is in a very good position to take the rest of this match. And emo or not, I think we're going to see a good game.
You know, I think Rise,
yeah,
what you said there was very. What I think Rise you said there was very interesting because Nada looked to me a lot more crushed after that defeat than Savior did at the end of Game 1 or before Game 2, and it's like Nada knows that Savior is playing better, which is why he knew that giving Savior a win that's going to boost his confidence even more was the last thing he wanted.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Well, I mean, Nada's. I do think Nada's played a billion games. I think he's played more games than anyone. So his face just could have been just some random itch or something. I don't think he's actually sad anymore. I mean, after playing like 500, 600 games over the course of like 10 years, you've seen it all. You've lost more and won more than anyone else. But anyway, let's move on. We're gonna connect these two games, right? So, Klazar, whenever you're ready, you can provide us with the countdown, and we'll start.
Hey guys, Klazar here again, and we're continuing on with our coverage. This is Game 3. This is gonna be Savior versus Nada. 1-1 it stands. The momentum is with the Maestro, but Solid Snake, you can't count him out. He's got a grenade hidden somewhere, and he's gonna be lobbing it anytime soon. And the Maestro is going to have to quick to be able to dodge it. Caller made a very interesting point about Nada's emotions towards the end of that last game, where you said, Caller, that you felt that he's been there, seen it all before. I think that's something that I would strongly disagree with you with, because that's the thing about sport. You look at any sport, you look at these guys like Roger Federer or any player, you look at Zidane when he played that last match in the World Cup for France. I mean, he headbutted a guy. That's how much into the game he was, how much into the zone he was, even after years and years of how many hundreds of football games he played. In the final of the World Cup, he went and headbutted that Italian idiot who deserved it as far as I'm concerned. But you know, it just shows to you that's what sport is about. That's why these guys are able to perform, because they care, because each game means so much to them, especially at this level. So I would not at all discount Nada's emotions in that regard. But that's just my view on it. And I think that's what is one of the great things about StarCraft that makes it so much more like a sport than any other esport that we've seen thus far.
Well, I don't think he's going to headbutt him, although it would be very fun to watch. But I do think that one thing that Nada's really got going for him is the fact that every single map has been Terran favored. I mean, now we're playing on Neo Medusa, which is 65% win rate for Terran. And, I mean, really, I gotta say, Savior has really overcome the statistics of the maps pretty well so far, and the question is, can he do it in the most important match, Game 3? And I don't know how the hell they pick these maps anyway. You would think that they would pick them after they found out what the races were to try and make them even, but really, this is something that I gotta say is going up against Savior, and I have no idea what's going to happen at this point. I'm very curious as to what Nada's going to do. It looks like he may decide to start things off with an early scout or a wall-off. No, it's going to be a wall-off for sure, and that's going to lead me to believe that he's going to go for a pretty fast expansion here, and I wonder how Savior will respond to this. He could go for some sort of all-in build, 2-hatch Muta or something crazy, which could work, and he is scouting in the right direction, so he certainly could go that route. But I guess it's certainly very early to be speculating like that, but really, I mean, this is going to be an exciting match. There's going to be a lot of energy in it from both players, I think, and we just got to watch and see what happens.
Yeah, it's interesting. At Neo Medusa, you know, it was one of those maps where the second version totally changes the balance. In this matchup, I mean, it was 40% Terran versus Zerg. That means Zerg won 60% back in the day of first Medusa, where you couldn't build in the middle, and there were slightly different configurations of the bases, and now it's switched completely the other way around. So very interesting in that aspect. But looks like Savior's going to start off with a 12-hatch. you know, Nada is probably going to go for the one fact into Command Center again. He did that very well in Game 2, except for the Vulture Harass, which totally failed. But I mean, I think that build is really the best, one of the best builds you can go for as a Terran player going mech. Obviously, there's other more aggressive options, going for wraiths basically, or going for drops, and I think drops could certainly play into this game also, doing kind of the fantasy-esque build, except without the stupid Valkyries at the end. And we'll see what happens. Looks like Nada, I think, based on the minimap, probably has his gas down. And Savior looks like he's just going for a standard 12 hatch. Savior's not going to be able to scout as easily this game because Nada has walled off. So unlike last game, he's not going to have as much intel. And if Nada does something, you know, out of the ordinary, Savior might not be able to find out and prepare for it so well. So we'll have to see. Nada still, I mean, actually we haven't confirmed if there's gas or not. That's a pretty early command center, so it might actually be an opening to an M&M build. We'll have to see.
Yeah, Savior looks like he's put his, he's taken obviously his natural expo, but he's also taken his min only behind his main. And actually Savior did a very clever little trick there, where he deceived Nada a little bit and made him send the SCV the wrong way. Although Nada might have done that anyway, but Savior changed the direction that his Overlord would have been coming in from by circling around, made it look like his Overlord was coming in from the top potentially, and also sent his drone back that way when Nada sent his SCV out. And that I think gave bought Savior a little bit of time, delaying Nada's scout just that little bit. Now Nada getting that SCV, and it'll be interesting if Savior's going to try and block this round, but prevent Nada from getting up and scouting up behind that min only. I don't think Savior's making any attempt to that, even though he's got his spawning pull down. He's just concentrating on ramping up that economy. He does have that Overlord hovering around that base though, so he might have seen that Nada's put that command center down, although I don't think that Overlord is quite in range. Now Nada is, yeah, you're right, he's putting another barracks down, so we might indeed be seeing a Medic and Marine build from Nada, and we might be seeing an early-ish push from Nada at Savior's front door, and we all know that Savior can be vulnerable to that because he doesn't build any Sunkens, and he relies primarily on his Zerglings to hold his opponents off, which is his greatest strength. But unfortunately, that's the thing about StarCraft and sports, that often your greatest strength is also can actually be your undoing, because you become so reliant on it, and because players learn specifically to counter it and to try and take advantage of something that you feel is your strength and that you're going to do time and time and time again, so you can be a little bit predictable in that regard. So it'll be interesting to see how Savior copes with this, because he's not going to exactly know what Nada's going to be throwing at him, and this is where his game sense is he's going to most need it.
Well, I was just watching Nada play when they showed him his actual face, and I gotta say he looked kind of tired. I don't know if it was depressed or tired or what, but he definitely looked a little bit out of it compared to his first match. And I can't help but think that there's some sort of mind games going on in the background, that he's just maybe starting to feel like he can't beat Savior, which I hope isn't the case, because I think he can beat Savior. So I really hope he's not thinking that, but I do get the impression that that's how it is feeling like. So but I do think he's in a strong position here. I think he's going for a very strong strategy, like you said, against Savior, a player like Savior who can be vulnerable to this, and he is going for that push right away. But Savior, wow, uncharacteristically is putting down 3 Sunkens. That is, I gotta say, somewhat impressive that he realized so quickly from the first match that, man, maybe it's a better idea to put down some Sunkens if someone's gonna put some early pressure on me with Medic Marines. Maybe my Zergling micro isn't quite there after all. Not to mention, it doesn't look like he's made all that many Zerglings this time, so it would be a lot more difficult for him to deal with anyway. So Nada has at the very least forced Savior to put down 3 Sunkens, expend the money involved in doing that, and he certainly is sticking to this Medic Marine build as he puts down barracks number 3, 4, and engineering bay number 1 to start some upgrades. And at the same time, he's starting to harass the back-end temples, but with a Medic Marine force and a fire bat, yeah, that's going to take about a century to break down. So I think Savior's going to be okay for a little while anyway.
Yeah, of course there are 10 stack temples. Firebats actually theoretically could burn all 10 at a time, but of course they deal only a quarter damage to buildings, so that is probably not going to happen. Savior, I mean, I think that, getting those sun colonies is essential, and it's standard too. I mean, there's no shame in getting it when you're starting off with this kind of beginning, when you're not going 2-hatch Mutalisks. You have a stronger economy, but your Mutalisks are later, so you need the base defenses, and I think Savior's correct in doing this. I mean, Savior also didn't always build no sunken colonies. He also built 3 sunken colonies plenty of times. I remember back in the day too. So anyway, he's gone for the 2007 kind of build here, and so has Nada. We're going to have to see how good Savior's Mutalisk micro is. because, of course, Savior was brilliant with it back when he was on top of the game, and Nada is preparing for it with a ton of turrets. So standard play from slightly older times, and I like seeing this. It's refreshing, actually, after seeing so many damn Goliaths in every game. And Savior right now looks like he's going to face up against a lot of turrets. Let's see how he can do here on Medusa. He's going to get 1 SCV, 2 SCVs, Nada chasing with his M&Ms. Savior, oh man, getting trapped a little bit, taking a lot of damage from those coming out of the barracks. But he does have that 9 Mutalisk force. It's still a pretty strong clump. He is going to do some damage, although I think it's pretty much a push here, and neither player really taking advantage from this stage in the game.
Yeah, well, I think Savior killed about 5 Marines and about 4 or 5 SCVs. So, and the key thing is that he's taking that expansion at the 9 o'clock position. He's keeping Nada's force busy while he takes that expansion down. Now Nada is going to scout that with that SCV. I think Savior would have ideally liked to have intercepted that SCV, but Savior meanwhile has killed an SCV that was building, I believe it was I would guess a starport. Yeah, it is a starport, and Savior now hammering with that starport as well. Nada brings the Marines out to try and counter that and push Savior back. But now Nada is sending that medic and Marine group out because he knows he cannot let Savior get that third gas. He cannot let Savior get that expansion at the 9 o'clock base, and that is exactly what Savior's going for, trying to get that third gas, and Nada sending a full group of medic and Marines out to intercept Savior, take that expansion down, and Savior's going to have to intercept it. I think that expansion is going to be the key. Generally, if a Zerg player can keep that expansion intact, they win the game. If they cannot, they generally, the Terran player ends up coming out on top, because that third gas makes a huge difference in getting those defilers out in time. Now Savior's seen it. It's just a question of whether he's going to bring his Mutalisk back or not. I have a feeling Savior's actually not doing that. He's not bringing his Mutalisk back, so he's just concentrating on doing damage to Nada's base, and he's hammering with Nada's natural expo and killing some SCVs there, but he's allowing Nada to kill that expansion at that 9 o'clock base, and that's going to be horrible for Savior, and you feel that that's a huge advantage there to Nada, whatever harassment Savior has done or not done. That's a huge advantage to Nada, and the whole purpose of getting those Mutalisks out in a 3 hatchery build is that you're supposed to use them to take down the Medic and Marines and keep the Terran player busy while you get that third gas going, and Savior has failed to do that.
Yeah, Nada really did a good job of keeping Savior off base. Well, I mean, really, Savior, I don't think he did a good job in the fact that he should have brought his Muta back to protect that base like you were saying. It was silly not to, and now he's lost an expansion. He's trying to get a base now at the 5 o'clock location, but if Nada scouts that, I mean, again, I think the same thing's going to happen, and wow, look how very strong the defense is at the oh my god, there are so many Medic Marines and turrets. This is horrible for Savior as he goes after all of the Medic Marines. He takes all of them out, but at the same time, he has taken a lot of heavy hits from all that fire. There are a lot of Medic Marines and a lot of turrets, and I don't know if that's a smart decision going after that. He is continuing to pick off the random SCVs here and there, and he's got a lot of
for the facility.
Muta, so maybe he's doing a better job than I thought, because it looks like he's actually going to take down that science facility. Oh man, so that is pretty crazy. So Savior actually in a better position. He's obviously got a lot more Muta than I thought he had. He must have close to 2 full control groups. We can see the fact that he's got 2 control groups, of course, but I didn't realize he had quite so many Muta, and now I'd actually say that maybe Savior is in a stronger position originally than I was saying Nada was, and now he's just picking away at those turrets because they essentially take 2 shots from both control groups at the same time, and you know, this is just going to cost Nada a ton of money if he continues to try to defend, and if he can't make those science vessels, he can't irradiate those groups, and now I definitely say that Nada is at a severe disadvantage in this game.
Well, I mean, I think that taking down that science facility is absolutely freaking critical, because, I mean, the best way to deal with this, the instant way, is to irradiate them to death. And Savior actually recently has shown really piss-poor ability to split his Mutalisks in general. We've seen that so many times. It's kind of embarrassing for him. But, you know, I don't know if that's still true or not. Savior's double expanded, and this is like Jaedong style here. He's basically gone super committed into his Mutas. As you could see before, they had +1 attack, which is very important, of course. Against you know, these turrets. It helps him kill them faster, and against his mass M&M force. So far he's managed to actually be able to defeat Nada's M&M forces in a straight up fight, and that's very rare indeed for a Zerg to be able to do with Mutas in this stage. Looks like Savior continue to put up the pressure on the back of the mineral lines. The question now remains: is Savior going to stay with Mutalisks? Is he going to go to Hive and go for big air, go for Guardians, or is he going to switch more into a traditional Lurker Ling build? All these options are open. We have yet to see what's going to happen here. But Savior needs to start thinking about something else, though. He's not going to be able to take down the science facility again, hopefully, for Nada, which means Irradiate will come out, and Savior's going to need something to deal with that.
Yeah, I agree. Savior needs to switch. This is the time where he's trying to make the switch to, and yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. This is the time when he needs to make the switch to lurkers, because he's got those two bases up, he's got them up and running, he's got Nada pinned back, he's got Nada under pressure. Nada obviously is trying to put down 2 starports with control towers to mass those science vessels, and Savior, the other thing not to forget is that Savior has been killing a lot of Nada's SCVs as well with this harass, so he has done significant damage to Nada's economy, and Nada has been forced to expend minerals to rebuild those SCVs, and obviously losing mining time as well in not having the number of SCVs that he would like to have. But now, yeah, Savior has got lurkers out in the field. Nada is going to see that, and the other critical thing is that Savior's killed a lot of Nada's medic and marines as well with those Mutalisks, because he's just gone up straight against them, so it's not like Nada's been able to build up a decent size force. Now Savior's putting pressure on Nada's back door. Those science vessels are going to come into play, though. I haven't seen any scourges out, and there's an irradiate, and Savior countering Cholera, proving Cholera wrong there, making him eat his words with a perfect Mutalisk split, taking his Mutalisk, one irradiate Mutalisk out of his
Absolutely, I'm proud of him.
So well played, Savior there, and yeah, this is very encouraging for Savior fans.
Yeah, it certainly looks like he's in the lead at this point. I mean, Nada is just frantic trying to get everything defended as he almost loses a starport to Savior's Mutalisk again, and finally getting there in time. It looks like he's getting ready to set up his middle-only base behind his main base, but Savior on 4 bases, 4 gas, and it looks like he's got something going up at the 1 o'clock position as well, and he's about to break down the back door of Nada, which is going to be horrible for Nada, who, by the way, like you were saying, Class, has been losing medic marines left and right. He's actually setting up 2 bunkers. I'm sorry, I thought he was going to put a command center down there and a bunch of turrets, but instead he puts up some serious support in the form of 2 bunkers, which is going to help, especially with the turrets in those locations and the science vessels. And if really what Nada needs is to get lucky, I think, with a couple of radiates and really take out like an entire clump of mutas. But if he can split them again like he did last time, Savior's not going to be in any trouble at all. And I would imagine at this point, and now we're seeing a ton of Lings out on the field as well to complement both the Mutalisks and the Lurkers. And now we're seeing Evo Chambers go down. So Savior is getting a very strong position in this game. That gas, you can see, is becoming very useful. And oh no, Nada, I don't know why I made that decision. Of all decisions you could make to flood your science facility after you already lost it once, man. That right there is bad game sense. So Nada now going to try to start pushing out. But I do not think that his force is strong enough to deal with what Savior has been able to produce in the past 5 minutes. I mean, he's got 2 full control groups of Lurkers as well as a full control group of Muta at this point, as well as a ton of Lings. And I just don't see this working out for Nada anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, he has to do this, but you're right. I think the game, unless Savior messes up, is Savior's, although certainly Nada is, you know, a master of comebacks also, so we can't count him out. But Savior has 5 gas. He's been running off 3 or 4 forever, and right now, I mean, it turns out that Savior's decision to not save as the 3rd base might have been the right one. Savior going to go in for a big attack, though, but Nada could be able to take it out. We're going to have to see Nada retreating. He is brilliant with his retreats, by the way. There's Pimpus plays about him and his splits, but it looks like it may not be. No, it is enough. I think it's going to be enough. Nada is actually going to hold. This is a victory for Nada, a huge victory for Nada here. Savior this time has thrown away his entire army. I mean, Jesus Christ. That was like Pickett's charge right there. It was even worse than Pickett's charge. He wasn't even behind. He was ahead, and he threw away everything. All of his Mutalisks, all of his Lurkers almost, and all of his Lings. So this is leaving Nada a window of opportunity to come back. And look at this. Savior has committed so much in the mid-game that he doesn't even have a hive, which means if Nada can somehow manage to, well, first off, keep his science facility alive, and second off, get a push going, take down some bases, Savior might not be able to hold it off for now, but now, man, just looking at the number of things Savior is producing, it might already be too late, despite what I feel like was kind of a mistake from Savior. I mean, he didn't take down the tanks, he only took down some M&M. Despite that, though, Savior has just too many bases at this point, I think, and Nada right now just can't compete economically. We're going to have to see, though. Certainly that move right there, I would say, made that game closer. What do you think, Classart, about that frontal assault there that Savior did?
Yeah, Savior definitely could have pulled that off a little bit better. I think the main objection, or the main kind of complaint I have about that assault is that he didn't kill a single science vessel. He didn't have any scourges to back up his assault while he had taken out all the medic and marines. If he'd followed up with a few scourges at that point in time, he could have killed Nada's science vessels. Instead, Nada's massed about 7 science vessels now. Savior now coming in with another big attack. Looks like he's going to try and use the Hydras to focus the science vessels down. He really needs some scourges here, though, I feel. Lots of Lurkers coming in. He's going to be able to close those Lurkers. This time, Nada's not going to be able to save his force. And yeah, you see, the problem is that Nada's been on 2 bases for far too long, where Savior's been on something like 20,000 bases. So, you know, when you're going up 2 bases against 20,000, it doesn't matter how well you micro, you're still going to go down. And yeah, this game is starting to look more and more like a foregone conclusion. I think that mid-game period of the time where Savior had Mutalisks, had 2 full control group of Mutalisks, and was just wrecking Nada's base, I think that was the game-defining moment, really, especially when he took down that science facility. And Nada, I don't think, has recovered from that. And you know, Savior able to afford to throw away his troops. Nada can't. And again, the only hope, and Savior's got 1/1 upgrades on his hard list as well. And again, the only hope for Nada are those science vessels. But unfortunately, they're just he just doesn't have enough ground troops to back them up. But Savior still, I think, if he wants to be careful, he still needs to get some Scourges to take those down in the next engagement that he has with Nada.
And you can just hear Master Radiate going off all over those lurkers. But certainly, like you were saying, it's really not going to be enough. But let's watch them pop anyway, because, man, that's always a lot of fun. I love the sound they make when they pop. One thing I wanted to point out, though, was the fact that Nada got, like I was saying earlier, he got lucky with an Irradiate there, and I think that's the only reason he really won that skirmish, or was able to hold it off, just barely for that matter. He got 1 Irradiate off on the clump of Muta, and do you know what happened? He lost every single Mutalisk. Every single Mutalisk in that group died, and we saw the horrible split that Cholera was talking about, or I should say, the non-existent split. But here we see a great idea from Nada. We'll have to see if this works out better than last time. Now that he's got 2 dropships out, if he can take out multiple bases of Saviors at the same time, he can get his way back into this base. But you can see, like Medusa is a little bit, beautiful with the defense matrix on the dropships, but a lot of Sunkens. So Savior really putting up some precautions at certain bases. I gotta say though, I mean, if Nada can pull this off, he can get back into the game. But again, Savior's got so many bases right now that it's going to be very difficult for Nada to do so. As he looks to drop some Medic Marines off at a couple of bases here, he may be able to take down a straggling one single hatchery with nothing behind it, but no, he doesn't even drop there. And the other one, his Marines are just getting picked apart by Sunkens with no cover from a medic. So that was just a bad drop on Nada's part.
Wow,
and
yeah.
So that's going to get cleaned up by Savior. And really, at this point, I don't see any way for Nada to get back into this match. Really, Savior really does have, he's got the arms of the spider that Medusa seems to form when you have every single base, and it's just not enough for Nada to overcome his Scourges, take out that science vessel, even that dropship, even though it had
all the medics were there.
Matrix.
Yeah, all the medics were in that one. 3 medics in that one, so the rest was a sausage party there at the 12 o'clock drop. I'm a little surprised that, well, I guess Nada wanted to drop in the back. Oh no, Savior's got queens! Oh man, those are going to be for some crazy ensnare action. There it is, the ensnare action. Man, we've seen this rarely, but we have seen this recently, and it's always fun to watch. Savior using the mid-game tech option of queens instead of getting defilers. And just look at all those ensnared Marines and science vessels. They're going down. Savior has lost a lot of lurkers in this battle. Nada has once again held with a bastion in the center, but it doesn't matter at this point since Nada has not been able to break any expansions. Savior can you know, handle massive imbalances in terms of losses. He can handle throwing men away. This is like the end of the American Civil War, where the Union did that plenty of times against Richmond, and they still managed to win the war in the end. It just doesn't matter. The resources are going to tell the tale here. Nada getting 2 good Irradiates off. Well, actually, let's not say it too quickly, because Nada's in the natural expansion of Savior all of a sudden, and Savior has Dark Swarm, though. So, I mean, I think the Dark Swarm should be able to handle it, but he needs to get lurkers underneath the Swarm. He has forces in the back also, so I think this is very different from the previous game, but certainly Savior is allowing this game to be a lot closer than it should be, in my opinion. Nada kind of at the mineral. Oh no, but Savior with the deck on the back. I think this might be good enough. He doesn't have defilers, but he has the positioning he needs this time. Brilliant flanking action there from Savior, and that cleans up the force with just a couple of lurkers. I mean, that was one of the best infiltration moves and surrounds I've seen in a while.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Nada, he doesn't have the resources to replace his tanks and Medic Marine group. Now he's forced to irradiate his own science vessels in the hope of trying to take Savior's drones down. and hurt his economy that way. And when whenever you see a Terran do that, that really is a move of desperation. When you see a Terran player do that, and he's not really going to be able to do enough damage with that. So it does look like Savior is going to win the eStars Heritage League and add another title to his name, and going to be. And I mean, I don't know if in the record keeping and the purists of StarCraft will consider this to be as prestigious as an OSL title. I personally do consider it to be as prestigious, even though it's not. Yeah, well, there you go. There's the difference of opinion there. Even though I don't think it is right. I don't think it is as prestigious, even though it's not as competitive and as difficult. But I think that the caliber of names that we have in there and the entertainment value, I think that the prestige is definitely there. Savior with two upgrades on his hard list as well. And yeah, I think, you know, when you've got one player who controls every single base on the map except for the two that you start out with, you're generally going to lose, and that's what Nada is seeing happen to him. Even though I have to say, Savior has been really poor at taking down those science vessels, and that's the big difference between Savior at his peak and Savior of today, is that those science vessels would not be floating in that air right now if this had been Savior at his peak.
Damn it, Nada! I had such high hopes for him too. And unfortunately, it looks like he is going to lose this after all. Unfortunately for Nada, of course, and for me, being a big fan of Nada. But I got to say, it was well played by Savior. He really did show us some good games, and with the exception of that first set, again, with the bad game sense, he's just looked like the stronger player in this series. And I'm not going to argue with myself like Klazar just did about whether or not this is a prestigious game. I just think that it's a really cool concept, and I'm glad they carried through with it, because regardless of whether or not you think it's prestigious, it was certainly very entertaining, especially to see some of the biggest names from StarCraft of all time playing in the same league. Regardless of their skill level and whatnot, it was just great to see them all out at a computer, pecking away at their keyboards and hitting their mouse as hard as they could. So certainly I was
ultra
very
dense,
entertained,
two ultra caverns.
I hope you guys were as well. Cholera, it's not worth calling out, man. The game is over.
I know, but it's still amusing. 2 Ultra Caverns, and he's getting the double upgrades. And yeah, no, I mean, like, this tournament is interesting. I mean, I think it's a good tournament to play. Obviously, it's just like kind of like a BlizzCon or a World Cyber Games in some ways. Not necessarily the best players, but still, there's GG from Nada. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, it's kind of like the best of like the retiree league or something. If there was like I don't know, like an over 50 like Olympics. Savior has just won it, but I mean, not all these players are completely over the hill, but I mean, Kingdom, where did he come from? He didn't win a single game. I Love Uv stressed out and left, which I totally don't understand, because I don't know what he was so stressed about. He hasn't, I don't know, maybe he was practicing too hard. Yeah, I mean, you know, certainly some entertaining games, and interesting choices for some of the people invited, and certainly some controversy too, considering July wasn't invited, and July definitely should have been invited over some of the other players. There's Savior giving the bow though. He wins regardless. Another kind of a specialty tournament under his belt of many of those. Savior has won tons of them. Nada playing you know, good games, but I think I completely agree. Savior just played better in pretty much this entire series. I really like how this game went too, by the way. That was kind of cool seeing a true kind of Sauron Zerg play there, with Zerg taking every base on the map and just overwhelming Terran, despite having, you know, imbalanced losses during the battles. I mean, he Nada played very well with his tank and Marines, but Savior just you know, overpowered him with economy at the end.
Yeah, I think what I find fascinating is how little cheese there was. I think maybe if this had been a BO5, there would have been a little bit more room for a player to try and do a cheese build in one of the games. But we pretty much saw standard play in all 3 games, although we saw slight variations with maybe a quick expand here or something like that. But pretty much this was standard Zerg versus Terran, old school style. And I don't know if, I mean, obviously it made for longer games, more entertaining games, but it's interesting. I always feel that like cheese is almost a sign of player confidence and player arrogance. You always see the players who are like insanely aggressive and arrogant, and aggressive and confident, they seem to be the more likely players to cheese. Whereas Savior, I remember back in the day when he was owning it up, he was 5 pooling players. No chance of that these days.
What the hell was Toss Girl doing in this freaking contest? I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing I ever saw, was all these big names and then Toss Girl of all people. Why did she not? They should have at least made her play in like a bikini or something. I mean, come on, seriously. Nobody else is going to watch her play.
The interviews had her in short skirts.
Right. Well,
Goddamn right they do.
But by that logic, she beat Reach, so Reach shouldn't be in the competition either.
Well, I don't know if you
Again,
heard the
it was all
statement
about
I
the Reach
said.
round.
Reach, what was she doing in this tournament? And I said, never mind. I said Reach's name afterwards.
She
but
was
it
doing
was
Reach?
because of event lag. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna. It was a good choice to invite her. Actually, I will actually take the minority position and say it was a good choice because look, I mean, she's a legend in her own right. She is the only female who's ever made it into the leagues. Sure, she's not the best. Sure, she sucks. But she's still the best of the girls. And since this tournament is not like the OSL, it's not like an actual like tournament where you're invited based on merit. You know, they can choose whatever they want.
Kick
Although
all
I
our
do.
asses, and we'd probably like
Oh,
it.
yeah. I mean, that's like
Well,
yeah.
sure.
Those YouTube commenters who say that are just they're always amusing to me because you know, by that logic, you know, Madden shouldn't be commentating because you know, he can't throw. I bet he can't throw a pass at 30 yards, or he'd probably get his ass kicked. Yeah, sure, but you know, anyway. But I think no, I think it was a good choice to pick her. I kind of disagree with, you know, like July, not like picking any time over July, or picking someone who hasn't played in years like Kingdom to come back. Maybe it has to do with other things too, like we don't know about the scheduling issues or whatever issues there were behind it. But I kind of felt like those were two interesting choices over July Zerg, who's obviously
July
the
was
first
busy
golden.
at the all-you-can-eat buffet.
Oh, yeah. Easy jokes on July. I don't know. Maybe he's in the hospital or something.
Ju-
I don't
July-
know.
July
Why
ate
didn't they
all of
invite
Uvi's
Backhoe?
bananas, you see, that's the problem. July had all of Uvi's bananas. That's why
Should invited.
Uvi collapsed.
What do you guys think was the best game of the series?
I think most of Boxer's games were the best games of the series. I think Boxer's 4 racks rush versus Nada in game 2 of the semifinals was the best game of the whole tournament.
Yeah.
Not 4, yeah.
I think
yeah.
I think the 3-point could have been the best, but it just didn't work out the way he was thinking it would, I think. And so you're right. I also think that was the best game of the tournament.
I think one of the funniest was NC Yellow versus Toscro, though. I mean, that was like the most epic fail of an A-Rax rush in the history of StarCraft. It was so bad.
How many SCVs?
She
did
lost
lose
2 out of her
against
8.
one probe?
One drone killed 2 of her 8 SCVs. And scouted her racks and prevented her from doing anything because it was such a slow racks in the end. It was slower than like a normal 10 racks because it took forever to go up, even though Yellow went 12 hatch. No
I thought
pressure
Yellow
at
was
all.
going to write fail. I thought he was going to actually type fail out in the chat room when he was going up against her and that happened. That would have been hilarious.
He showed no mercy.
Well, he wanted to do an Eiffel Tower with Reach, so never mind. I didn't even say that.
Rotisserie.
All right,
Colorado,
maybe
you're
we'll
gonna
cut
get
that
sued
out.
by
GG.
You will get sued.
GG. I think the legal advice is for me to shut up right now with the Eiffel Tower jokes. For those of you who don't know what an Eiffel Tower is, please don't Google that. Please don't.
Wikipedia!
No,
It's
no.
on there, I
no.
swear.
No. Go away.
I'm stopping this recording now.